Gotcha.
So she can slide her tape on a little bit or something.
Yes.
Okay.
So I told them two that were accepting for the whole campus and Nate and Greg.
Okay.
So I have their two here.
Okay, welcome everybody to the January 25th, 2021 regular business meeting of the Board of School Trustees, held in public with a start time 4:45 this afternoon. We had a little adjustment to try to get away from this winter storm that we could potentially have coming, so we had a little bit earlier start time. If we could ask Mr. Angel to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll all rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. All right, to start our meeting, we have the Board of School Trustees Resolution Accommodation Awards. Item 2.01 is the Crown Point High School 2019-20 Latin Club for placing first in the Helen Wampler Spirit Award, second in the Publicity Contest, first for T-shirt design, and first for local chapter publication Tempus Canis. Hopefully I said that correctly. And third for the Sharon Gibson Community Service Award at the Indiana Junior Classical League State Convention, and placing first in both recruitment and school displays in the Publicity Contest at the National Junior Classical League Convention. The students were Vincent Medali, Olivia Bianco, Tony Bunch, Lucas Denny, Anna Gramosli, Aiden Gregg, Ann Gregg, Abby Namagata, Gigi Sapinzi, Luke Sherman, Katrina Valente, and their sponsors were Sarah Whitebrock and Jeremy Walker. So this evening, we have Aiden and Ann here. Would you guys like to come forward? So as a school board member now for, I want to say 8th year, and Mr. Angel has some years beyond that, Latin Club continues to just blow us away with your success. First place in state and national conventions, and it's just really, as often as we do see you guys, we want to make sure you all know that the hard work that you put into is much appreciated. It means a lot to our community and to the school to uphold such a high standard. Let me read you your commendation award now. Resolution of commendation. The Crown Point Board of School Trustees is honored to commend Aiden and Ann Gregg for meritorious achievement, along with the rest of the students. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Trustees for the Crown Point Community School Corporation wishes to express sincere congratulations to the Latin Club for placing first in the Helen Wampler Spirit Award, second in Publicity Contest, first for the T-shirt design, and first for the local chapter publication Tempus Canis, and third for the Sharon Gibson Community Service Award at the Indiana Junior Classical League State Convention, and placing first in both recruitment and school displays and publicity contests at the National Junior Classical League Convention. The Board of School Trustees publicly recognizes this achievement, renders it permanent to its minutes to be preserved for public posterity dated this 25th day of January 2021. Congratulations to both of you, and thank you very much for the hard work you've done.
I assume brother and sister?
Yeah.
So who's smarter in Latin?
Oh,
I mean, the competition thing, but you admitted it and she was agreeing, so. No, right. Well,
As long as we're being honest.
Normally, we would ask Mr. Walker to, give us a few words of one of the comments, but you guys had a lot of different awards that were listed there. Is there one that you might want to point out as being that you were more proud to achieve than the others?
I mean, I was particularly proud of the Publications Contest Award because I made that publication, the Veritas et Scientia, which is our state's publication. I served as IJCL editor last year now, and as our current IJCL editor. I moved up to IJCL first vice president, so that's been exciting. But I was really proud of that award because I put a lot of work into that publication, and it felt good to be recognized for that.
And are you seniors this year?
Yes, we are.
Got it.
Do we have school plans already?
I just put my deposit down for Butler University.
Congratulations yourself.
I need to put down my deposit for the fall.
Oh, well, congratulations to both of you. Outstanding.
Thank you.
Here you go, Ann. Ms. Green, are we going to hold on to the other?
They want to get a picture of you guys?
Pat, just okay.
Oh, yeah.
Push this way. Right there. You can get together. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out this evening.
Do you want to recognize the adults who are here with them? Maybe it's like, yeah, they keep together. Okay.
Have a good night. Thank you. All right. Item 3, we have patrons registered for comment. Ms. Green, nobody commented this evening? Okay, thank you. And we can move to item 4, the consent agenda. We have Dr. Todd Terrell.
Thank you. For your consideration this evening, we have 4.01, which is the regular business meeting public hearing of the Board of School Trustees held January 13th. The minutes for those meetings, we ask for your approval. 4.02, the Crown Point High School band equipment purchase. And then 4.03, the personnel agenda. And 4.04, the voucher registered checks as listed in board docs for your consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. You've heard a recommendation to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Do we have a second by Mr. Babjack? Any questions or comments for Dr. Terrell? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And we have a couple we have a special hire in the personnel agenda, and Coach Bazia and his wife Barbara joined us tonight to be our new football coach starting as June 30th, correct?
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Drill, do you want to introduce Coach to us, and then we'll ask Coach if he'd come up and say a few things and introduce his wife to us as well.
Sure, it's my pleasure to introduce Coach Bazia as our new head football coach at Crown Point High School. Coach Bazia comes to us with a wealth of coaching experience, both in Indiana and Illinois, taking his Portage team to the state finals, his team at Homewood Flossmoor at the state finals, and several playoff experiences. We're really excited to have him on board, and I'd like to introduce Coach Bazia and his wife Barb.
Thank you, Bill. Just to say a few words, first of all, we are thrilled to be here tonight. We're extremely excited to be part of the Crown Point community. It's one of the few jobs that really piqued my interest, as a further on in my career, and this is just a tremendous opportunity for myself and my family. I bring today my top assistant coach, my wife Barb, who you all see throughout the years, and she does a terrific job of doing a lot of things off the field that really help our program. And I'm humbled, I'm excited, and I couldn't be any more happy. I guess I'd be remiss to if I didn't point out the professionalism of the committee and all the things that went along with that. They were just outstanding, very professional, and it made it very easy to go through the process. But we're excited. I'm excited to meet our student athletes, and excited to make you all very proud to be a part of Crown Point community as we unleash the Bulldogs for the 2021 season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. I'd also like to say that we had heard the process, and thank everybody who put in the time to the hiring process through the interviews. And I know you guys spent hours on the first round and hours with the second round, and as a board member, appreciate the work and effort that went into hiring the right coach for Crown Point. So thank you. Does anybody else have any comments before we move forward to action items this evening? Well, let me hesitate real quick to say, generally, Coach and Barbara, if you guys like to, take an opportunity to leave, that'd be fine with us.
You don't have to tell Bill
Yeah.
twice.
Oh, those reporters got to stay. Where are those two guys going?
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
We lost half the room.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay, action items. 5.01, approval to apply for and receive the Walmart Community Grant Science STEM Education of Colonel John Wheeler Middle School, at Colonel John Wheeler Middle School. Mr. Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Warning. This evening, seeking your approval to apply for and receive funding in the amount of $1,500 from the Walmart Community Grant Program. This is to support science programming at Colonel Wheeler Middle School. This is earmarked for purchasing a 3D printer and supplies to initiate that. It was in collaboration between the teacher at Colonel Wheeler Middle School and parents. And actually, the parent, Mr. Lewandowski, was the one he actually found the opportunity to apply for the grant and submitted it, and we were awarded it in December. So seeking your approval to apply for and receive that funding.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. You've heard the recommendation to approve to apply for and receive funding in the amount of $1,500 from the Walmart Community Grant Program for Science STEM Education at Colonel John Wheeler Middle School. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Babjack. Any questions or comments from Mr. Hartman?
I'd like to thank everybody involved, including Mr. Lewandowski, obviously.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Hartman. And 5.02 is approval of construction management and design services, the 2021 projects. Ms. Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you today, these are the construction management services agreement with the Skillman Corporation, as well as the design and architectural services agreement with Gibraltar Design. Mr. Katsouris and Mr. Thompson are here today. Obviously, we all know Dion and Jim, as they're fondly known to us, from Skillman as well as Gibraltar. These agreements cover the construction project that you all approved the petition referendum process on for total construction in the amount of $214.5 million. And these are the agreements that fall in line with that for all of the design, construction management, et cetera. So the percentage fee, essentially I took the overall cost that was listed and divided that into a percentage based on the construction. So that's where the number came from, just for your own information. As you can see, there's Skillman Corporation, Gibraltar, we've worked with for a period of time. They've continued to work with us when we were doing small scale $2 and $3 million projects, worked with us through our entire district assessment. So we knew the things that we needed the most, and so we would like to continue to work with them through this big changing moment for the corporation as well. So the administration would recommend approval of the construction management services agreement with the Skillman Corporation in the amount of 5.45% of total construction costs, and design and architectural services agreement with Gibraltar Design in the amount of 5.85% of total construction costs. Mr. President, I don't know if Mr. Katsouris or Mr. Thompson have anything to add.
I'd just be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, let's move forward. We'll get to it and see if anybody has any questions at that point. Okay. For the recommendation then from Ms. Dowling to approve the construction management service agreement with the Skillman Corporation in the amount of 5.45% of total construction costs, and design and architectural service agreement with Gibraltar Design in the amount of 5.85% of total construction costs. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Babjack and second by Mr. Angel. And now, do we have any questions or comments or for?
My comment would be to both these gentlemen and their firms. Obviously, we've had great working relationship with them. When we were talking these kinds of dollars on a project, not just the dollar amount itself, but it's the confidence that when glitches occur or issues arise, that they're hands-on and they're there to answer our questions and take care of those in a timely fashion and as part of the overall project. So that goes into this of agreeing to work with these two firms and these individuals. So on behalf of a board member of 16 years, I greatly appreciate that relationship. I look forward to obviously working with you on this large, substantial project that the school corporation is moving forward with.
Mr. Angel, I'd like to echo that with the fact that we've had some smaller projects along the way with the, not necessarily a small project, but things like the Learning Center that it just always seemed to go very smooth, and the product at the end is exactly, if not better than what we expected. So,
and if people didn't realize, that was a time crunch sensitive project, and I'm telling you, there was thoughts 2 months prior or a month out that things were never going to be ready, but somehow they delivered. So once again, that goes to having that relationship to where we know things are going to be done the right way and in a timely fashion. So thank you.
Looking forward to seeing this one get started. A lot of stuff that's been a long time coming. So, and I also appreciate that you guys are here for, this is our 4th or 5th meeting that we've had, and you guys are always here. Make yourself available for questions, so appreciate that too.
And the direct questions may come about as these projects get started, but so don't think you guys are quite off the hook as long as it starts. So.
Can I just add a few comments? We greatly appreciate the opportunity, and what I'd like to add is there will be 4 members of the community, Crown Point community, involved in these projects at a minimum. We also have a graduate that's looking to build in Crown Point. He moved out to Valpo. He's a former graduate of Crown Point, so possibly 5. So that's exciting as well. I mean, you have taxpayers that are involved. Personally, as a parent, I'm obviously excited. I have 3 kids that go to the district, various schools, so very exciting, and we're greatly appreciative of the opportunity. We look forward to serving.
Awesome.
Brian, would you like to add anything? Brian Smith from.
Oh, we're just excited about the project. Thank you guys for all your work. Schools and always done a great job. So I'm just excited to break ground and get after it. So let's get it. So.
Okay, let's move the vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 4-0. And as Mr. Babbitt said, thank you guys for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
The 5.03, the VM project funding acceptance. Ms. Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. The school corporation, specifically Karen Toth, our Director of Transportation, partnered with South Shore Clean Cities to apply for a grant for an electric bus. The grant is for a 75% reimbursement, so we have to put out the full cost before we can be reimbursed. So the cost of an electric bus is estimated to be $419,663. We make that full purchase out of the operations fund and then file for a reimbursement. We'll receive 75% of the cost, which is estimated to be approximately $314,747 in return. I would also add that as part of this, we are getting a full assessment done of our fleet to see where we can identify other areas where electric buses or alternative fuel are feasible. And we'll continue to work with South Shore Clean Cities. But we actually will be, to my knowledge, the 2nd electric bus in the state, the 1st in Northwest Indiana. So with that, the administration would recommend acceptance of the Volkswagen Diesel Emissions Environmental Mitigation Trust Award in the form of a reimbursement grant for 75% of the purchase price of an electric bus.
Thank you, Ms. Dowling. You've heard the recommendation as presented by Ms. Dowling. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Babjack. Any questions or comments from Ms. Dowling?
What will be the use of this particular bus? I know the next section, action item, I think there's specific use, but would this just be a typical school bus used for transporting children?
Yes, it will be. I would say it's probably more likely to be in the more local routes. So it's not going to be used for extensive travel because of the recharge needs, but it is going to be used on the regular daily bus routes.
Fantastic.
Any other questions or comments from Ms. Dowling? Now let's take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 4-0. And then 5.04 is the award of the Transportation District vehicles. Ms. Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had 2 vehicles within the Transportation Department. One predominantly used for transporting additional materials that come with some of our extracurricular activities, such as robotics and drama, athletics, band, orchestra, where it's not feasible due to the size of the equipment to put it on a school bus. It's more appropriate to use this large van to be able to transport things en masse. Second piece of this is a van that transportation's been using to essentially jumpstart vehicles, things to do with buses, and essentially should probably be a truck, but we repurposed a van. And so the area that houses fuel is actually on the interior, and over time, as you might imagine, that has the use, I think the fuel has made its way that the vehicle no longer works as efficiently as it once did. Both of these vehicles are over 20 years old and just simply are no longer usable for the purposes they were intended. So Ms. Toth went out and did obtain quotes for the vehicles that's contained within the recommendation. These are normally on a, we don't normally replace these on a 10 to 12 year schedule like we would do with regular maintenance vehicles or with school buses. You can see we get a lot more life out of them than just your standard usage. So the 3 quotes, there's 3 quotes from the providers, 1 quote for each vehicle. So there's a 2021 Ford 250 as well as a 2021 Ford Transit van. The low quote on that was from Sutton Ford in the amount of $72,307.20, and the administration would recommend awarding the vehicles quoted to Sutton Ford at that amount of $72,307.20.
Thank you, Ms. Dowling. Heard the recommendation to approve the award of the vehicles quoted to Sutton Ford at a total cost of $72,307.20. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Angel. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Babjack. Any questions or comments from Ms. Dowling?
No, just like in our information, it was mentioned that this isn't part of our 10 or 12 year bus replacement because these vehicles last longer than that. So just want to make sure the public knew that these are not included in that plan for that specific reason.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And again to Ms. Dowling for the 2021 liability and worker compensation insurance renewals and changes. Ms. Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our 2021 commercial package liability and workers' compensation insurance coverage. For 2021, we did see a net overall increase in both our commercial property as well as our workers' compensation. We had discussed last year when we saw a slight increase, were we going to go out to market? With Pinnacle Insurance serving as our agent, they can access multiple markets in order to do a full rebid of our property and all the commercial coverages. The challenge for us this year, frankly, was COVID-19 didn't make that a great environment to go out and do that. So we sort of held steady, and we did see an increase, and it was significant. It was about 15% overall, but a lot of it was market-driven. We actually talked about this in our last IASBO school business officials meeting, and everyone except for one particular very small corporation experienced the similar 10, 15, 20% increases. So It seems to be market-driven. That's the feedback we've received as well from Pinnacle Insurance. So essentially on our commercial, our property, and we talked about this last year a little, our overall property values of the buildings and the content went up about $20 million. Liberty Mutual agreed to phase that in over a 3-year period, so this is year 2 of the 3-year phase-in. When you look at those side-by-sides of the expiring premium and the renewal premium, you can see there's an increase in the general liability. There's a component of that it has to do with the pandemic. There's a component of that has to do with a national increase in due process claims. Then the third part of that is you can see where inland marine used to be itemized separately, and it's now included up in general liability. So that's actually the biggest component of that when you look at the increase. Overall, with automobiles, we've added buses. Facilities has gotten their vehicles on a regular replacement schedule, and so as we've added more and newer in line with replacement schedules and to support growth, we're going to expect to have a higher premium in the auto area. Then we also saw an increase slight, about $4,000 in our overall umbrella. In workers' compensation, those increases, we did make a change to our third-party administrator. That's not what caused the increases. Number one, because the corporation has, through the board, offered pay increases to all staff. Last year, teachers received a base of just over $3,000. Those all factor into our premiums. So when we give staff increases in salary, as well as adding employees, which we did significant amount of certified positions going into this past fall, that means we're going to pay more because it's based on wages. It's based on what we pay. And we did have some high claimants in workers' compensation that attributed to our buffer, which is our protection piece for being self-funded. So the positive side, we did get a credit. If there's a positive to COVID, we got a credit for the vehicle suspension on our bus insurance from March to July. But essentially for 2021, we would recommend approval of the 2021 liability insurance renewals, including property, general liability, crime, inland marine, flood, automobile, pollution, liability, terrorism, and general umbrella coverages in the amount of $567,269.33, as well as the workers' compensation renewal in the amount of $146,235.10.
Thank you for the recommendation as presented by Ms. Dowling. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Smith
Second.
and second by Mr. Angel. Have any questions or comments for Ms. Dowling? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And Resolution 793, responsible bidder resolution, Ms. Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think after this, I should be done for the rest of 2021 for meeting agenda items, right?
Yeah, you're full of action items.
At least Mr. Smith thought I was funny.
I chuckled, but yet I seen your name on the next two. So.
I'm still not done. No, it's still not over. Sorry. So as you all know, we've been talking about this since I think the fall. We are now, after getting through the petition referendum period, in the heat of the planning and design stages for this large-scale renovation project. And now that we've gotten through and we're moving forward, as you might imagine, with a project the scope of the one that this corporation is undertaking, we are being contacted by a lot of different providers in the area of construction that we are not necessarily familiar with. And similar to what took place in Hanover Township when they approved their referendum to build some new buildings and spend a significant amount of capital money, we essentially obtained some information about what they call a responsible bidder resolution, which essentially the Public Works project, and I list the code citation, the 36112.1, requires contracts to be bid over $150,000 to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. And this law allows the corporation to consider the ability and capacity of the bidder to perform the work, the integrity, character, and reputation of the bidder, and the competence and experience of the bidder. This resolution allows the corporation to ensure quality workmanship, efficient operation, safety, and timely completion of projects while still complying with the statutory requirements of the competitive bid process. So this isn't circumventing any of that, just to be clear. And this allows us as a corporation to establish more comprehensive bid submission requirements and reporting expectations for successful bidders. Now, within there I listed, and it literally, in Exhibit A, it identifies a bunch of items that are complicit that have to be submitted with the bid. And I'm sure that you want me to read A through R, but I'm not going to. But it's essentially ensuring, and just to give you a few examples, the business certificate of insurance existing within 60 days. This protects us from a business that doesn't have experience in this area forming to come in, be a low bid on a project or on a component of a project that then we have no work experience with, they have no work history with, we know nothing about them nor the work that they've done. And as you go through these compliance with E-Verify, there's components that are pretty boilerplate, but ultimately it's about protecting the corporation as we go through this bid process to ensure that the folks that are working on these projects are skilled in those areas with which they're working. And it protects us. I think I've been told this has not had to be invoked very often, but it's something you want in the event that you need it, is how I would characterize it. The other thing I would highlight, for everyone here, this gives us the ability actually to request that they give preference where feasible based on skill sets to people who live within the Crown Point Community School Corporation boundary. So people who live here, pay our taxes, are able to get first cut, if you will, from the companies they work for to work on our projects here, which we think is very important as well. The second piece of this is there's just a component of obtaining certified payroll, and that is about as well, if you give us a list of what you're working on, because it requires that you give us a list of if you're subcontracting, we want to know that. This is verification that you're doing exactly what you said you're doing. So this has been reviewed back and repeatedly with Attorney Zick, Dr. Terrell, and myself as well. So the administration would recommend approval of Resolution 793 to establish submission requirements with regard to designation as responsible for public work projects and to add a certified payroll reporting requirement.
Thank you, Ms. Dowling. For the recommendation to approve Resolution 793 to establish submission requirements with regard to designation as responsible for public work projects and to add a certified payroll reporting requirement. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Babjack and second by Mr. Angel. I'd like to just say, Ms. Dowling, this is one, when you do a review of the packet when it comes out, is something that, reading this as a board member seemed, as you said, it was something nice to have in place, and look forward to getting a positive vote here. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Dowling on Resolution 793?
You know what, Dave, I would just add that this is an important thing when we're responsible for the amount of money that we're spending on this project, and I appreciate Ms. Dowling to this. One question I have specifically, I'm not sure we have the answer or not, but I didn't see anything in here, but is there, maybe someone knows the answer to this, is there a process to where somebody would come in and they did the project and then they do an addendum? Or if there's supplemental work that needs to be done, how does that get carried out after the contractor's already been hired? Meaning they come in, they bid for the work, and there's a change order, so to speak, to that bid. I don't know if this meant change orders, so do that, or if anybody else.
So there's a certain amount built into every contract based on Skillman's recommendation that is for adjustments, contingencies, I guess would be the appropriate word. But state law limits us, any change order that's over, Dan, I want to say it's 15%, but am I wrong?
It's 20.
Is it 20? Anything that would adjust an individual awarded contract by more than 20% has to go to the board for approval. So if you remember, not too long ago, we would have brought a contract to you for Larson Danielson, I believe, related to some of the soil borings and some of the things we found. We're doing the gymnasium piece of Winfield. We had to bring that back for the board to approve that.
Good. I just wanted to make sure that's stated and that we have a grip on the change orders on the project. Excessive, so just want to make sure it's appropriately done. Thank you.
And if I may, Dion can wave out there, and I think Dion would agree that this is a very helpful resolution that we're passing tonight or that we brought to you tonight that will help with the process of making sure the quality of work is what it needs to be.
Absolutely, and I'll just touch on it briefly. I mean, just working with several neighboring communities, they passed the resolution. I mean, I can go to the past, 5 or 6 years, and I can think of just only one occasion where we had to use the language to enforce it. It was an out-of-state contractor, just didn't meet some of the qualifications. But at the end of the day, it's going to ensure good quality contractors are working in Crown Point, meeting some of the requirements like, are they safe? Do they meet, all the substance abuse policies, just things like that. And it just gives you that additional assurance above and beyond even some of the requirements that the state has already implemented. So it's definitely a good thing. It's a useful tool to enforce if any contractor does come in that's not qualified.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dion.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And 5.07 is the purchase of Aruba ClearPass appliances software.
This should probably bring up some questions simply because of the name
stop.
Aruba.
I thought, I got excited. I thought maybe a board member would have to travel to approve the contract.
You'd have to go with Katie though.
No, Kate,
Is that where Tom
nobody
is?
is going to Aruba. Oh, goodness gracious. Ryan, do you want to speak to this, or do you want me to take it?
Oh, if you want to start there.
Okay. So essentially, the ClearPass appliances software, Aruba ClearPass appliances software purchased from the Brookfield Group was obtained through the quantity purchasing agreement through the state of Indiana, where the state's actually bid out this, done our work for us, and so we can technically use that legally to purchase items, and they've done the bid work for us. HP, Hewlett-Packard actually has the contract, and this is their provider in the area. Kind of interesting, I know how that works. So essentially, this project, the purpose is to add an additional layer of security to our network by having users log into the network instead of using a passphrase. This not only allows us, by us I mean the geniuses in the technology department, what devices are on the network, but who is on the network, allows tailoring permission security based on whether the individual user is a student, staff member, or a member of the public. Mr. Gill, do you have anything you'd like to add?
That pretty much sums it up. It will also allow us to take what device, whether it's our own district-owned devices or employees or students bring in BYODs, cell phones, whatever. By them logging into the network, it will let us determine if it's a corporation device or a personal device and segregate traffic on the network based on that. Same thing with, even on a district-owned, say Chromebook, student logs in, we know it's a student. We're going to direct traffic, what they're allowed to get to that way. Right now, basically the passphrase, we don't know who is on the network. We know a device is on it, but not who. So we can't tailor what they can get to and not get to based on that. So it's just an additional layer of security on our network.
Good.
Especially in this day and age of cybersecurity issues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dowling. Thank you, Mr. Gill. You've heard the recommendation to approve purchase of Aruba ClearPass appliances software from the Brookfield Group at a cost of $107,921.54. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A move by Mr. Angel, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Babjack. Any questions or comments for either Ms. Dowling or Mr. Gill? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 4-0.
Not nearly as exciting as you thought it was going to be, was it?
Disappointed.
And 5.08 is support staff computer refresh. Ms. Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. Corporation, Mr. Gill's department prepares a technology plan. Obviously, we have a 10-year technology plan, and we refresh staff computers every 5 years. We did delay this slightly, because I believe we actually originally were going to do this last year, but delayed it a little because of COVID and the difficulty in obtaining components in a timely manner. So this new refresh cycle, we are also adding, which were not included previously, all of our instructional support staff, which would include paraprofessionals within the various departments. That could be special ed support, gen ed support, your positive behavior paraprofessionals, our interventionists, birth to school staff members, our, coming soon, our preschool gen ed preschool if you'd like to differentiate, because obviously our preschool ECD teachers have them. So this has obviously created a much larger number, where we're in a not to exceed 450. Originally, that number was a lot less for the regular support staff that are more your clerical support, your media folks, things of that nature. So essentially, Mr. Gill did an RFP. You can see on there on one particular bid, they did not quote the bid spec properly and failed to include all the equipment. Second provider, although the battery life is a cost component to this, so a less significant battery life than what's required in the bid spec is going to drive the cost down. And so that's what we had there, a difference in, I think, 20-some hours in what the machine had in terms of battery life, which also didn't meet the standard of the RFP. So what we've done here is establish a not to exceed on the number of computers, because we think 450 is where we'll be, but that could be 434. And so we just wanted to make sure we covered ourselves. So what we're asking permission for is to recommend the purchase of not to exceed 450 Dell Latitude 5520 laptops from Electronic Strategies, Inc. at a total cost not to exceed $573,282 even. I would also point out that this will be a combination of education, operations, and also CARES Act money. There's going to be a secondary distribution of CARES Act funds, and so there's a capital component here. Because what this will allow us to do, which we could not do in March, is to be able to unplug, go home, and be able to work remotely. Not everybody had that capability. Staff couldn't connect with kids in that way in some of these support roles. And so this eliminates that and makes us fully compliant. That, heaven forbid, we were in this situation again. All of the re-imaging and the hours and days Mr. Gill's staff had to spend getting machines ready, we no longer have that deficit. We'll be ready to go.
Thank you. For the recommendation to approve the purchase of 450 Dell Latitude 5520 laptops from ESI at a cost of $573,282. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, moved by Mr. Babjack, second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments for, I guess, either Ms. Dowling or Mr. Gill? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Ms. Dowling, for all of your presentations this evening.
Wow.
And information items, we have the superintendent discussion groups. Mr. Hoffman is in Arizona, so I'm sure he has nothing new to report from there and enjoying the winter out there. But how about Mr. Smith? Have you heard anything from Cedar Lake? Or if
No, I know they're meeting tonight, Mr. President, and they're discussing a review of there's a little bit of talk about some of the taxation issues. Nothing really overly, nothing different than what we've heard. But a lot of what they're doing has to do with capturing the tax dollars and giving it back to the businesses. But we're familiar with that. Nothing new on that front, but they're working on that. So,
okay.
relatively flow out there, budget in the winter.
Just by chance, without Mr. Hoffman here, Mr. Angel, anything
In
from
Whitfield, I don't know if somebody saw it in the newspaper, they received a huge grant to improve the intersection of Grand Avenue and 109th, which, for those of you that don't live out that way, that's where you take the dip in the road, and it's a really nasty spot for a left turn when someone's turning and people are doing 50 miles an hour in a 40 zone. So that will extensively help that traffic, so-called nightmare, so to speak. So that's on the corner of 109th and Grand. So they were awarded a grant to improve that whole intersection. So.
I was just stopped there the other day, looking in my rearview mirror, waiting for someone to come over that hill, waiting for the car in front of me to turn. So that's good to hear.
Okay, anybody else on as far as that goes? If not, we can move to the Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Hardman.
You want to hear from the good stuff, or you want to hear some management stuff?
Ooh, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, let's start. All right, we'll come back to Mr. Hardman with the management stuff. Let's move forward to Ms. Ramirez with the Director of Elementary Education. Let's get,
Mr. Akiwa ran away.
yeah.
You might want to chug that Dr. Pepper before that, Jim, before you get up.
It better be good now.
Second portion of your stuff. I would like to thank our district's ELL specialists and our building interventionists, ELL team members, and administrators. We are in the process of administering the WIDA access assessment to our English language learners, and that started earlier this month and will continue for the next several weeks. And so it really is a team effort to support our students as they develop their English language proficiency, and from the classroom teachers being supportive and motivating our students and reassuring them that you're all here to see them succeed and to grow, has been a great kind of effort over the past couple of weeks. I would also like to thank our blended instructional design specialist, Jeremy Walker and Susan Valentine, as well as our data specialist, Chantal Pierce. This is kind of like the trifecta. I feel that they are true collaborators. They have been with each other working to troubleshoot, problem solve, and really to support our teachers and students since last March when we came into the situation of the pandemic, and have not stopped, and they have just been tireless and truly dedicated in everything that they've done. So I just genuinely appreciate all that they continue to learn and to manage as things have changed from what was normal at this time last year. So thank you. If there are no questions, that is all the good news I have. Mr. Jean Murphy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ramirez, and Director of Secondary Education, Mr. Gene Fermi.
So with the return of our students, since we last saw you at the secondary level, and our middle school and high school have returned in our hybrid yellow learning model, I'm happy to report right now, we haven't experienced any major contact tracing, this is good, at this point in time, although we still know that there are cases of COVID out there. So it's good to see that we're hoping that space is helping to keep that contact tracing down. I also would encourage you as board members, if you have parents approach you and they have a student struggling with the learning model, please get them to our principals. Mr. Harvin and I worked with the principals all last week, middle school and high school principals, just talking to them and seeing what they are doing for our students in addition in this learning model. And they have come up with a lot of new creative ways. I'll just use Mr. Marsnick as an example. The depths that man will go to try to make sure a student is getting what they need is pretty amazing. So if you are ever approached, the biggest thing to do is get in those principles, because there are a lot of great things that are happening beyond just the foundation of that learning model, where they'll go above and beyond and really work with those kids to get them what they need. My second piece that I want to share with you, since school safety is still under my umbrella of responsibilities, last Wednesday, January 13th, the state conducted an audit with Colonel Wheeler Middle School, and it was conducted by the Director of Physical Safety and Security, Stephen Belko. So myself, Mr. Rodriguez, and Dave Colson, our Director of Safety and Security, underwent an audit. It was really comprehensive. It was just beyond Colonel Wheeler. It was putting our safety planning, training, and equipment under a lens. And we passed with flying colors. We met compliance or above and beyond in every category. Dr. Terrell should be receiving that letter sometime this week. And I want to thank Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Colson for all their work with that as well. But all the work that we did on our safety stuff, I was kind of excited to see where we landed with all that work that we did last year. So it went very well. So if there's any questions or concerns, I can help you with.
That was great news.
And just appreciate that work that's done behind the scenes that a lot of the public and no one's aware of, that goes through from the state auditing and different departments. So thank you.
Okay, well, I guess it's kind of, we're still, I'm sorry, Ms. Vasquez.
He's not ready
Such a
yet.
rush, Mr.
Yeah.
Warren. Come on now.
All right, Director of Exceptional Education, Ms. Vasquez.
I think this is where the good information is coming.
That's good. I'm gonna have Christy Carroll come up and join me, my preschool coordinator. So what we are sharing out with you tonight is tomorrow, preschool pre-registration goes live. So Brooke Allen is just a complete champion and created all of this publicity for us to share with our community. So the Times will be running an article, we have a website, Twitter, social media will get a version of what you're seeing in front of you. We also have included some of the general information about the program and FAQs that we're sharing out with the public. So this is the pre-registration. This is just for us to get a feel for who's interested. We will follow up in a couple of months with an actual registration drive. But this is exciting. This is labor of love. We've been working on this for a few months, so it's exciting to see it all come to fruition.
Very cool. That's good. A little bulldog buddy and little logo here is
Okay.
pretty comforting and looks.
I made her go back to the drawing board with that bulldog a few times. But I love the result. Scott, not a word.
I was just gonna say, what, that's a bulldog? It's like a part poodle or something. I'm just kidding. It'll fit for the preschool program, wonderful. Just.
Not enough teeth for you? You want more teeth?
With the hire of the new football coach, maybe we'll change it a few years from now.
And I wanted to thank my diagnosticians, who are my school psychologists and staff that help evaluate students, my speech therapist, and my occupational therapy team has all experienced planned and unplanned loss of staff over the past several months. And I have had to have people jump in and pick up extra cases and work even harder than they typically would, just because of an unexpected injury and a couple of births in there. So I really appreciate those folks. And then to tie it all up, last Friday was exciting. We met as a cabinet with Dr. Cole and Dr. Murphy from IU, who were here last year to complete the special ed program audit, and we began some of this work with the strategic plan, but just aligning special ed into the plans for the big picture for the district. What's that?
Before she sits down, if I may, Brooke isn't here this evening, but the little bulldog design that you see there, so she's in the process of going through, she created that, that's not clip art, but she is going through all of our elementaries and creating our own mascots and cards and just anything you can think of that will be related to it. So that way we don't have to worry about there being any kind of copyright infringements. The work she's done is just, it's amazing to see what she's putting out. And so this is just one example of that as we move forward with it. So she's doing great work as
One
well.
more thing, we have a workshop this Thursday. We're providing, our behavior specialist is gonna hold a workshop on behavior component to the IEP. And we just gave Brooke some of the particulars, and she created a flyer that looked so professional, and it was awesome. So, yes, she whips this right out, and it looks fabulous, so, yes, we're excited.
Regarding the follow-up with Dr. Cole and Dr. Murphy, how often is that occurring, and what's the, not long-term, but the timetable to kind of say, all right, we've met these requirements? Oh, can I take somebody's
No,
thunder?
you're good. So I will answer that question when we get to my part
Oh,
though.
okay, all right, okay.
Because there's, you all are gonna have a role in that as well.
I'm at that age where if I don't bring up what I have on my mind.
No, it's a good
forget
question.
10 minutes later.
It's a good question. Let me address that one, in just a couple of minutes.
Okay, all right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
This is not bad news, this is news.
All right. Mr. Hardman, what do you have this evening?
Well, I wanted to just bring you up to date a little bit on some of the testing scenarios that are going to be taking place in the next few months. First of all, think about 3 through 8, iLearn and iRead, those are the 2 state tests. I think currently they are on schedule, and every indication indicates that there's not going to be a pause in testing coming up this year. One of the things that you may hear about is we have about 15% of our students at the elementary that are distance learners, and then we have about 20%, I believe, at the middle school that are distance learners. Testing has to be in person. So we cannot administer iLearn or iRead via the internet, and that's for reliability, validity of the test, but it's counted for accountability and those kinds of things. So we're in the process now of inviting or working with our parents of distance learners to set up a opportunity for them to come up in and test when that occurs. And we will do what is necessary for parents. We know some parents might opt out because they would not feel safe about bringing their children in, but we'll do everything that we can to try to make it safe and conducive for that testing to occur for iLearn and iRead coming up. iRead comes up in March, and iLearn begins April the 19th and goes through May the 14th, I believe. The second part of the testing I wanted to just share with you is in 2022, a year from, I believe probably a year from now, let's just say that, I'm not sure the exact time, the high school will be administering the SAT at grade 11 to all students, and this is part of the accountability system. In preparation for that, we are going to start, and we're going to administer the SAT or give the opportunity for all of our juniors this year to take the SAT. And we're going to pick up the cost on that SAT test, and the reason we want to do that is to be able to give us kind of a heads up on where our students are on the objectives of the SAT. They're working currently. This will be a measure of how we're doing right now on what we're doing, and also help us to plan over the summer into next year so that we can give our students the best opportunity to be successful on the new SAT as it comes in as part of the state testing. So it's a great opportunity for students. I mean, they're going to have an SAT that's going to be paid for, either by us this year or the state in the future, and that's a great opportunity as far as having a piece of information for their post-secondary development and placements.
So is the state saying that all students will take it, or it will be available on the state's dime for all students who want to take it?
No, it's part of the accountability, so there will be criteria as far as participation. Currently, the participation rate is 95%, so that you get, quote, maximum amount of points towards accountability.
Mhm.
So that would be our target, which is 95%.
Okay.
Jim, do you know this, I know with my kids being out a few years out, ACT does composite scores. Does SAT work that way or no?
SAT will have a composite score, and then they'll also break it out by achievement or subjects.
But, oh, I'm sorry, I phrased that wrong. So in other words, you would have an initial baseline maybe when you take it this year, and then next year, can you use the higher scores like ACT?
Oh, we're doing that this year.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, there's two things here. You're talking about, can I use SAT and then maybe take the SAT for next year?
Correct.
My assumption would be yes, that if it's a higher score, you could, because it's going to be the SAT test, SAT. From the standpoint of what we're doing this year in preparation for next year, I think you've got what we're trying to do to help our kids, and then there's the accountability piece.
Okay.
So I think people that should be thinking about, if I take it this year and then I retake it as a senior, then can I take the highest of the two schools? Absolutely.
Okay.
But for state accountability, it'll only be on the one that we administer, not if they take it 2 or 3 more times. It's the one that we give, correct?
One time.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Warney?
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harmon.
That wasn't too bad, Mr. Harmon, that was all right. See if Mr. Akiwa can top that.
Well,
Never stop, Mr. Hart. I have to sing a song.
We'll have at it.
all right. Yeah. Chief Human Resource Officer, Mr. Akiwa.
How are you doing? Good evening, Mr. President. Just 2 things to comment on this evening. First, thank you. Over the last few months, we've seen a staffing challenge unlike anything we've seen before. When I say staffing challenge, I mean the students have been moving and shifting pretty much constantly this year, be it from online, in-person, back to online.
Mhm.
And I just want to state my appreciation for our leadership team here, particularly the building level principals who have met with us regularly for, when I say staffing meetings, it's how big are the classes, what do the classes consist of, which students are in there, and then drilling down even further, quite frankly, the teachers. The amount of flexibility and professionalism that they've shown through this window of time has just been nothing short of amazing. So just thanks to everybody to get us through this first semester and start it off into second semester. And with that being said, we are now rolling out
into the fall, believe it or not. It's January, but this week we're having meetings with our middle school principals, our high school administrators, and then very shortly after that, our elementary school principals to roll up our numbers to see what our staffing demands will be for the fall of 2021. So always looking forward, always trying to be proactive so we can get into that interview window as soon as possible ahead of the market, which is thin, the teaching labor market. So we get these efficiencies figured out now that will help us down the road. So thank you. Questions for me at all? Or?
Good.
No,
We
thank
appreciate
you.
all that work being done on that, to make sure we're set for the following year, especially with those staffing requirements based on everything that's going on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Dowling.
Well, I was gonna say, I've had enough to say already this evening from the agenda items, and I wanted to add to one thing that Mrs. Pascas said while going over preschool. Through the course of this capital project, it eventually will be at a point where we will offer that program in every single building, which is not very common, throughout the state to have preschool offered at that level, but currently we don't have the space. And so once we get to that point, this will be a program that will be offered in 7 elementary buildings. We'll keep kids more into their home schools, which is part of inclusion and a million other things, but it allows us to connect with kids so much sooner, and it's a really great thing for this district to be able to accomplish. But, that's in that 3-year window because we need to create the space and do some other things before we can get there. But we're starting. That's the most important part.
Just
And then, that's all. Because
just to follow up on that preschool, these same documents we receive is what's going to be posted online? Okay. Very informative, by the way.
That's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dowling. And Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Terrell.
This evening I have several things we want to bring to you. First one, as we look at the possibility of snow coming in, it gave us motivation to get out the message a little bit sooner than we had anticipated doing it in the middle of the week. But that is using e-learning days versus just snow days where kids are just off. And I know we've had, just from monitoring social media, some questions about why not just have a day off of school. So one of the things we just want to talk about is for where we are right now, we already have half of our students at the secondary level who are ready to have e-learning day anyway. If we were to call school off tomorrow, as an example, we're not saying we are calling school off tomorrow. We're saying if, that would already be accountable, already have the lessons planned for them. We've worked with the teachers and we've worked through this in the fall with them to get us to this point where we feel really good about being prepared for that. And so part of the reason too is if you remember back to the beginning of the school year, we delayed that start of school to give teachers time to prep. So we have already moved back the number of days that we have to have, the end date, what that would be. So what we're trying to be really conscious of is to make sure we're not adding any additional days to the end of the school year. So this would enable us to continue to be able to count it as a day of education. Just like when students are at home learning, we understand that's not the same as being in person. One thing I will tell you that the directors can back up for me as well is because of what we've lived through for the last 10 months, we're a whole lot better at doing that now than we were before. So we feel really good about what we're going to be able to do for our kids there. But just wanted to give kind of a little bit of information about the e-learning days. Excuse me, an update for COVID. We've had some questions from people saying, can you tell us how long is this for, the model we're in right now? When are we going back with full for our secondary buildings? What's that look like? Wish we had a date for that. We just simply don't. It's too fluid right now. I think we're in a good spot. We're seeing the positivity rate dropping in our county, which I think is a really good thing. We just don't know what's going to come around the corner. As I mentioned before, there's also a possibility of close contacts for our kids maybe changing a little bit, what that could look like. We don't have any verification that that's going to happen, but that will play a part of this as well. So for right now, we're going to just continue to work through it and see where we are. We'd hate to say we're going to stay for the whole third 9 weeks and everything look really good to, in the next couple of weeks, and then we've committed to that. So we're gonna continue to plan. Rest assured, we'll give ample warning if there is going to be a change. For right now, as we see it, we're gonna be staying as we are, moving forward with that. Any questions at all comments that I can make sure I address for you guys?
It was one of the conversations we had, Dr. Terrell, regarding some of the doctor from the state. Part of that, I think, with the contract, what was that exact conversation that we had regarding that, about some of the restrictions might be changed?
Yeah, so one of the things they're looking at is when we look at the number of positive cases we've had in our district, like in that November, December window there where we ended up having to go totally remote because of staffing concerns, we had 60 positive cases within our district, and that could be students, that could be staff combined together. Out of those 60 cases, we had 1,920 some people that had to be quarantined as close contacts. We saw nobody have the transmission within our buildings at all, but it still impacted 1,900 kids, 1,900 people who had to be removed or quarantined at home with that. So one of the things that we're looking at now is several other states have looked at students and said, if they don't have any symptoms and they've been a close contact, now they're okaying them to go back to school as long as masks are worn, as long as they go through whatever the protocols that are set in place. So there's been an indication that the state of Indiana is considering something like that and as the next move coming for us. That would really help us because, again, we haven't had that transmission within our buildings. So that would really help us as we continue to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Projects, you've heard a lot of information tonight about our projects. I just want to give just a couple of updates for you. As Katie mentioned, we made it through the remonstrance process, which a period of time that we had to go through. Appreciate our community and their support with the projects as we move forward. One of the things that Katie and I met today, and both Dion and Jim were on that call with all of our group that we're going to be working with, from financial advisors to bonds to architects to construction company. And as we continue to work through that, we're going to continue to work out a way for you guys that we can keep you up to date with that regularly at our board meetings, of course, but there are going to be other opportunities for those updates as well. Just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with where we are at and what that process looks like as well. We're really excited for Crown Point Schools, and I think Scott Babjack mentioned, it's about time. It's like overdue. We need to get this going. One of the things that Dion brought up to us, to Katie and I, as we were meeting with him and Scott Cherry a couple weeks ago, was how excited they are, not just for our school corporation, but for our community at large. The number of people, how it's going to impact our economy, our local economy, the number of people who are going to have great employment opportunities because of the projects as we move forward with this. So it's not only exciting for us, but the excitement and what we're going to be able to continue to do for our community at large as well, I think is a benefit that I hadn't really thought of as we move forward with this. And so we're just really excited about that as well. So those are just a couple of updates with the projects. We hope to be able to bring site recommendations and those kind of things to you, information on that in the next coming months, so that we can stay on schedule with that as well. As you can imagine, it's rather complex, exciting times, but complicated and long hours involved with this as well. So we appreciate all those who are getting ready to really jump in and get going with it. So last area is strategic planning, and that was part of what Heather mentioned. So Friday, all of Cabinet, we all met with Hardy Murphy, Sandy Cole, and Allison Howland, who Allison has worked with Mark Gianfermi and our counselors as they've been going through that. You asked a question about a support program, and part of that has come out of what our counselors are going through with their work with Allison. Fortunately, these three individuals are all from IU, so they all have a common bond and working relationship already. But based off of the evaluation and audit that we had, that you all ordered this past school year, towards the end of the year and then this summer, from our earliest conversations, I talked about the fact that there's gonna be things that the board has to do as well as what we have to do to get us in a good spot. So we've taken this to that next level now and really looking at common language, but looking at what is our strategic plan for Crown Point schools. And we wanna make this something that's not just, we filled it out and then we put it on the shelf and then annually we'll pull it back out and make some adjustments. We really want it to be kind of that living document, that change in flight document, where as things come up, we make the changes to get to where we need to be. So in the next month or so, we're gonna have an opportunity for all of you to participate with Cabinet and with our three individuals here from the university to work through and just kind of set the expectations of what strategic planning needs to look like here in Crown Point schools. We're gonna be working on a common language, mission, vision, but then for the board, where I really hope this goes is then we allow that vision and mission to really work through and come up with what are our board goals. And those board goals should probably be something that are pretty consistent year in and year out, but that we tweak every year annually. And then from that, what are the metrics that we wanna look at so we can make sure that we are actually achieving our goals, or at least moving in the right direction with our goals. So I think it's gonna be a great opportunity for all of you. We were talking about it today in cabinet meeting and we're excited for it. It's gonna be a lot of work, but we really believe like it's gonna put us where we need to be. We're good and we wanna get to where we're great. And I think this will help move us in that direction. The other part of this is we'd like to jump in and get this all done in the next 2 months. This is gonna be a long process. It's gonna take a year, it may take a year and a half or more. But I think it's more important, my experience has taught me that it's more important that we go slow and get it right than it is that we get it done. And so I think it's gonna be a great opportunity. We look forward to that opportunity to work with all of you and really set up those board goals as well.
Sounds good.
And that is all that I have for you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. Board statements of appreciation, recognition. No, we didn't. Just in case it's not on the agenda this evening, but I'm gonna slip in real quick here. If we have any other business, old business, any ideas to discuss that you know, Brian, were you able to hear that? Wasn't on the agenda this evening, but I'm just gonna slip in the opportunity for any old business. Is there anything you'd like to bring up?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it just, when I looked, I didn't catch it the first time either, so I didn't have anything myself, but okay. Well, let's just move forward then to board statements of appreciation, recognition. Brian, how about we start with you, Mr. Smith?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for accommodating my issues here, and Dr. Terrell and Diana, thank you for making the accommodations to let me zoom in. I miss everybody. Just want to say thank you to everybody. It's an exciting time. I mean, that's everything I heard tonight is just, I'm just excited, you know, for this plan that Dr. Terrell just shared to come in and implement it, make sure we're on the same track, so much more effective. So I don't have anything in specific, and I know I'm on a delay a little bit. It seems like it, so I'm going to jump off here. I do appreciate everybody's hard work and efforts.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Babchick, anything?
Yeah, I think Dr. Terrell, is it safe to say Bill Derilla and Russ were the kind of the leads on that, the hiring of Coach Bazia?
Yep.
And then the committee as well, that was a part of that. I want to say thank you to all of them. I know we touched on it a little bit tonight, but we had a chance to, it was the first time I had a chance to talk with Coach Bazia and his wife tonight. And what I had said to them was I felt it was very important that obviously he's a great coach. I mean, the credentials will speak for themselves. His credentials speak for themselves, but what the feedback that I've heard that's most impressive is that both him and his wife are great people. And that's the foundation for, you know, something like this when you're looking to rebuild a program and get people involved in the community. So thanks to Bill and Russ for leading that charge.
And I might mention, so Mark Gianfermi and Artie Akiwa and Matt McCaleb were the other three who were part of that and all sat through the 2 hours with each individual for the first round, and then Russ and I held the second round. So definite investment in time, but I think they would all agree with and tell you that good process, and we believe we really came out of it with a great candidate and now a great coach as he continues to lead us forward.
Rumor has it Artie was looking for his helmet.
He was.
During
As a
the
matter of
interview
fact,
process?
they all told me they were ready to run out of the room and go hit somebody. You know?
Just what I heard.
Fortunately, it was the end of the day, so they went home, and if they get at home, we don't know.
I just
Everybody's
want to
safe.
clarify that is not a workers' comp injury.
Yeah,
If it were
exactly.
to happen.
Anything else, Mr. Babjack?
Nope.
Mr. Angel?
So first, my commendation, then I just have a statement. Commendation is to Alexi Westfall, the girls' state champion wrestler. So congratulations, Alexi, on winning her state title in wrestling. She's part of our Bulldog program, but she obviously has that. They have the girls' state tournament as well, and she was a state champion. So congratulations. The other thing is I mean, think about this. We hired a new football coach. We have a preschool program coming that will be probably top notch, and then which nothing less than that. And also we have a building project that we're starting forward with. So how I'd like to compare this is a lot of people might think we're just content, and that's the word that I'll compare maybe the Bears organization and Bears fans to where you go 8-8, you get 4 free agents, and like one of them's a C and the rest are D's, but you're content, you keep the same things in place.
Move to adjourn.
So, but I mean, I just think it's a good comparison. So I can just tell people in the public that's listening that Crown Point, ever since I've been on this board, is not content. We know things haven't gone perfect with e-learning, hybrid learning, but we're always looking to improve in those areas that we may not be a 10 out of a 10. So I think with these 3 things that were announced today, the building project, the hiring a new football coach, that we're here to make those improvements when we deem necessary. And Dr. Terrell touched on it with the strategic plan that's continuing going to move us forward to reach those lofty goals that we have for ourselves and for the corporation. So I just felt that it was a strong meeting tonight, and all the cabinets responsible for that, and all the way down to every employee, teacher, bus driver, custodial worker, because it's all part of the entire community in the process. So thank you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't forget the one that keeps us board members in line. That would be Diana Green, because sometimes members forget passwords or forget meetings, and Diana makes sure that we're in attendance to make sure we have quorums and everybody's on tap. So thank you to Diana as well.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. And it's funny you just mentioned that, because we don't obviously talk about what our thoughts are, but for recognition before we get here. And I heard a phrase this evening after 40 years as a Crown Point community member, unleash the Bulldogs. And it was like, I wanted to mention in this part of the meeting myself that just rang a bell, that's just not coming from a football coach, but it's coming from, a cabinet and teachers and principals that, as Mr. Angel just said, are, I don't know, they're kind of always looking to get better, not just settling. So, the big projects taking place with the buildings and everything, I couldn't agree more. And when I heard that this evening, I said, that's exactly what, we want to hear as a board from our community, our school corporation. So it's kind of neat. I don't know if surprised we haven't heard that one in the past, but 2 other quick things we have. Mr. Gianfermi, Dennis Bunda making progress. Having a book published soon? Okay. Well, I'm gonna check. It does. I'm gonna follow up on that one, and see where it stands. But that'll be exciting when he gets that completed. And then, look, I don't think Mr. Zubergen was ever directly affiliated with the school system, but we had a gentleman, Dick Zubergen, who passed away last week. He kind of took care of the older kids of the community. He was a commissioner of the softball league, and he has a field named after him over at the off of 109th. One of the fields is named Dick Zubergen Field, and I just wanted to mention that I didn't know him well, but everybody that knew him loved him, and was very sad to see him gone. He lived a great life, and just wanted to pass our condolences along to his family, who are also they're a community family. So we'll miss Mr. Zubergen. Anything else from anybody? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Babjic. All All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.